Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Stool podcast, a podcast for woodworkers and the maker community in general. This is episode number 25. My name is Robin Lewis from robinlewismakes.com. I'm joined by Joey Chalk from King Post Timberworks.
Hello.
And Jordan Crawford won't be joining us tonight. Unfortunately, he's not well. He's got a migraine. So I hope when you do listen to this, Jordan, I hope you're doing all right. But we'll see you next week. We live stream the recording on YouTube every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or UTC plus 10. Or you can watch or listen to it later on YouTube, iTunes, or SoundCloud. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. We'll get your comments and questions towards the end of the show, but feel free to chat amongst yourselves. The idea being that this is also a place for people to meet. So in terms of announcements, just the one, we talked last week about the Discord server. I've got the link in this. If you're watching this on YouTube, I've got the link in the comments below. We are going to kick this thing off. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try and be on there as much as possible, probably at least once a day. But yeah, the idea is that this is going to be somewhere for everyone to communicate. It's not just you guys to myself, Joey, and Jordan. So, if this thing takes off and we're only there 50% of the time, that'd be beautiful.
Right, you better throw me that link so I can do something with it.
Yeah. So in terms of what's involved, you'll just follow the link, you'll sign up to Discord, and then you'll have access to the chat. So later tonight, I'll jump on there. And so if you're new or you're not really sure what's going on, I'll be there and you can just message me and say good day.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Well, tonight we are going to dedicate the show mostly to our trip down to Queensland, which happened last weekend. Myself, Jordan, and Joey went down for the Maleny wood show. We did a talk there, and then we went and met up with a new very good friend. We'll get to that in a second. Before we do that, let's just do a quick rundown of what we're working on. Joey, after you.
Sure. Well, I didn't think I had much to talk about, but I've got like 10 points here. So stop me when I get boring or something like that. So we pretty much finished up this counter. There was one shot of it on my Instagram, I think. That's for a shop. So it's like plywood boxes, mainly painted black. And then we clad the outside of it with walnut and left it rough sawn from the mill and just gave it a bit of a sand of like 80 grit. And then put a couple of coats of polyurethane on it, and it looks mint as like the client's after a rusticy dark wood thing. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, I did a lot of searching around, and we're trying to use some of that kind of cheap flooring stuff, that kind of vinyl flooring that looks old. There's all sorts, there's tons of it. That click together stuff.
Yeah.
Even the cheapest version of that was going to be more expensive than solid walnut. So
really, that's crazy.
Yeah, I got solid. Well, the cheapest version that was the right color. I mean, there's cheap versions of that flooring. But,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say because that stuff's as dirt as you can get.
So we got 25 mil. Walnut and ripped it in half on the bandsaw and just pinned it onto the plywood boxes, and it looks mint. Yeah. It was $350 worth of walnut, and I don't know that you could spend that little on the pre-finished flooring.
And it's pre-finished as well. Hey, yeah.
So I don't think you could do it for that with the flooring. It'd be pretty tight.
Mm.
Anyway, that was an interesting little thing that happened. What else? So just before I flew to Maleny, or to Brisbane at least, an article come out in a local magazine, which is, it was their profile spot. And it's very local. It's local to my kind of area in around North Auckland, Northern Auckland, which is pretty cool. It's just like a one-page kind of spread. I just put a picture on my Instagram about. So you can see the article.
Right. I saw that. Yeah.
So interestingly, so that was Friday that came out. So today, I had an older couple walk into the workshop, say, "We saw your article. I've got all this. I think he's got Carrie sitting around in his shed, and he wants 2 like Victorian high boy chests of drawers made. So, yes,
That's going to be a pretty hefty quote, won't it? Because of the detail that's going to have to go into that.
Well, yeah, I was like, you know, what do you want? Like, and he's a non-internet man, so just you know, describe it and make it. And that's how I was like, okay, well, I'll draw some pictures and get some kind of reference photos. Do you have an email? No. Okay. I'll get the information. You can come back to the workshop and I'll show you all the pictures and stuff of what I think it should look like. And he was like, what do you think it's going to cost? And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe say 2,000 each. And he goes, okay, so that's like 4,000 plus just for a couple of chests of drawers. So I think that should work out about right.
I'm surprised you gave him a figure after one of
No, well, it's not. He just said, what do you think it's going to cost? And I said, well, it depends on the complexity. But based on that maple one I made about 6 months ago, which had a lot more drawers than what he wants, I was like, okay, I've got a pretty good idea. And you're getting 2 of them. So, you know, there is some time saving there a little bit. But then I said, look, if you want carved details and fancy bits and pieces, then obviously the price just keeps going up. But that's a base point. And he was happy with that. So I'm happy with that too. The more I can add on, the better. So
yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that goes ahead. He sounded pretty keen.
That's so cool that because you and I are both from music, you know, the music industry background. And when we would do gigs for free for promotion, you're always like, yeah, thanks. Promotion doesn't pay the bills. It never does.
No.
But there's an example where it actually has tangible benefit.
Anytime I've had anything like that, like a piece in the paper, I've got at least one job from it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I mean, even YouTube, I've got direct jobs from it. So it's interesting that it can work. I think it's just a matter of time and constantly putting yourself out there, being available for these kinds of things.
How did you end up getting that article in the end?
It's a kind of a very low key magazine, but it tends to get picked up by all the trendy places, and by trendy kind of mean more wealthy places. And I actually contacted them and said, look, I think my business would be a good fit for your magazine. And they had a list of the upcoming each episode. What do you call it? Not an episode. It's not an episode. What is it when it's a magazine?
I know what you're talking about.
Whatever you call it, monthly edition. There you go.
Yeah, that'll work.
Every edition has a theme, and one of their themes was like entrepreneur. And I said, that might work out. Anyway, they came back to me and said, oh, we've had a cancellation. Can we slide you in? So I said, yeah, sure. And so I was angling not to pay for it as an advertisement, because a 2-page kind of spread is fairly expensive. And so it ended up happening as essentially a freebie. They just wanted it as good content. So that really worked out well. And now that I can see that it has really good coverage and the right kind of people seem to be looking at this magazine, I will definitely pay for advertising probably a couple of times a year, I'd say. Because it's a nice sweet publication. Interesting little mishap today. I started making this bookcase out of oak veneered MDF. It's very simple. It's like quoted as like a 6-hour job. It's like cut 4 bits of MDF, cut 6 little bits of solid oak, and kind of they're joined together. And this is somebody else's design. It's for a shop actually, and I just said, yeah, I can make that design for you, because their furniture maker had retired at like age 80 or something. So they needed somebody who could copy this other guy's design and to fill the shelves, literally with shelves. So anyway, cutting this MDF up, and I knew something wasn't quite right, but I'll just carry on. I just needed to get these bits of MDF cut. So it turns out I had put the fence back on my saw because it wasn't on there. but I didn't seat it properly, so the fence was out of square with the saw blade by, well, over 2.4 meters. It was out like 20 mil.
Jeez.
So, I mean, I saw the ripping come off crooked when I took a little ripping off the edge of my sheet.
Yeah.
And I just it didn't even occur to me that it was the saw that was out.
Because you've done that a million times and it's never been the saw. Yeah.
So I was like, whatever. So when I went to stack these shelves up, and they're so far out of square, and I was like, oh my God, what the shit?
Yeah.
What have I done? So had to spend a little bit of time swearing and trying to fix that.
So you could fix it. You didn't have to just get, because I imagine that would be such a simple,
I could just re-square it up.
Okay.
But I mean, it wasn't quite that simple, but essentially that is the name of the game. But I mean, I lost some length, but I'm glad I caught it kind of when I did. So yeah, the interesting little just mind lapse of not quite doing what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So someone mentioned before, and I think it was Leroy, I installed this. That was Wednesday. I installed this big white bookcase that I'd been working on, and it's interesting. It's an interesting job because we needed to fill a doorway from a lounge into kind of a little side loungy room thing. It was really an odd space. It had like a double door size hole, and the people wanted to turn that smaller room into a bedroom for their 3-year-old. So they wanted a bookcase to fill the hole where the door was. Well, there was, the opening. So it needed to look good on both sides. The back side, the bedroom side, was just going to be flat panels.
So it wasn't going to be
not a double-sided bookcase, but it had to look like a wall on one side and look like a bookcase on the other side. It also incorporated a flap-down desk and filing drawers and push-to-open drawers. They wanted to incorporate a secret tunnel for the little girl to crawl through if and when they wanted her to. And also a third of it needs to be kind of relatively easily removable. So in case they want to shift a third of it out and have a small doorway into that bedroom later down the track. And if they want, even later down the track, the whole lot could be shifted out and swung onto the bedroom wall. So this one thing had to do a lot of things.
Well, I mean, at least you can't argue that. Well, at least it's not a customer who doesn't know what they want.
No, exactly. And he had drawn up the plans in 2D. I had all the measurements to work from pretty much.
Oh, awesome.
When I did the site measure, my measurements were exactly the same as the measurements he had given me. So I thought that's pretty good. So it took a bit of there was a lot of pieces to this thing. I think 15 sheets of plywood, I think it was. I mean, it's a lot of stuff happening. So got it installed. Install went really well. Installed it in 2 hours and didn't hear anything. And I was like, that's not a good sign. Then I just got an email before, and the guy is super stoked. Loves it. It's better than they thought it would be, which is great. It's the best kind of feedback. Sometimes you just don't hear feedback, and they are happy, but you don't hear it. But it's really good to get that positive kind of. And he even sent me a picture with it all loaded up with books. So.
All right, cool.
Really good to actually have someone happy and know about it.
Yeah. What a cool design though. Like, whenever I think of built-in bookcases, I always think of you've got your stud wall and then you put the bookcase into that. But if you were to make a bookcase and line the back with gyprock, just sheets,
that's right.
The bookcase is your stud wall. You don't even need to integrate it into that. Yeah, that's a really cool idea. Never thought of that.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I think they're getting onto this kind of idea with a lot of these small micro homes and small home things that's happening around the world. Just this multi-use kind of thing where you don't, unless you need a structural wall, of course. If you don't, then cabinetry can be your wall, and it can be double-sided. And I actually proposed that we make a double-sided bookcase, so it was shelving on both sides, but it was going to start eating into the actual available space in the bedroom. But yeah, interesting, really cool design, I thought.
In our third bedroom, we want to come in from the other side, go through the wall into that bedroom, and in that make a pantry for the other side, which is the kitchen, if that makes sense.
Right.
And in my mind, I was thinking I'm going to have to reframe that, the shelf, the pantry. But just with what we're saying, you don't really need to reframe it. Just make the pantry, get it up against the wall,
right. Yep.
Cut through the wall, and then that's it.
That's it. Yep.
The back end, yeah.
And also the good thing with things like that is you can be fairly obvious with the trimming around it, as long as it looks neat and tidy. You don't have to have an invisible connection between the wall and the cabinet. In this case, on one side, on the lounge side, I was able to put regular kind of scribers in and make them fit, because the hole was pretty crooked. So my scribers went from like 10 mil to 20 mil. I mean, there was quite a bit of out of squareness, but it went away. And on the back side, I just literally kind of put an architrave essentially around the gap where the unit was in the doorway. A couple of screws, and that was it. It looked really tidy. And so easy. So also, if you're going to do it like you're saying, Robin, you can be kind of messy when you cut the hole in the wall, because you can hide quite a lot with like 60, 70 mil architrave.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter too much. Should I keep going on about what I've been working on?
Good thing Jordan's not here tonight, because we'd never get through the show.
Yeah, probably. Let's see. How about this? I've got a really cool bookcase to build. Quoted it like 3 months ago, and the lady said, "Oh, can I pay you off the deposit?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, sure. I don't see why not." So every 2 weeks, she's paying me a couple of $100. So I think last week she paid off the deposit. I was like, great, let me know when you're ready to pay the rest of the amount, and I'll actually start making it, because I'm not going to have you pay off the final amount.
Unless she wants to, or would you
no, because I'm not going to wait that long to get paid. Like after the final payment, it's money's now. But then, so now she said, okay, we'll just keep paying you off until I've fully paid it off, and then you can start making it. So you're like, okay, I mean, that works, but it's really hard to, and I'm keeping track of it. I've given her receipts, and I've got a spreadsheet of the money, but it's really bloody annoying having this random money come in. And by the time I get to work on the job, it's kind of like I'm being paid for nothing, or sorry, it's kind of like working for nothing, because the money's already gone. Yeah, the bean's gone, and you're like, now I've got to give you a week of my time to make this bookcase. So it's a really odd situation. I think I would stay away from it in the future. But
although I guess if you had multiple clients doing it, then it becomes a bit of a salary in a way.
And essentially it could be, but then you get to the point where we're like, oh, now I've actually got to do something for all this money.
Unfortunately, such is the nature of work, unfortunately.
Yeah. So annoying.
Cuffy's just said King Post Timberworks now accepting lay-by, which is pretty much what it is.
So anyway, finally, I think I'm ready to start filming another video. I'm so slack. I don't have anything lined up, so everyone...
Because it's been a while.
It's been a while. So I've got a couple of bench seats to build for that extension table I made with the X frame on it. I finally want some seats for it, so I'll throw a video together for that over the next few days.
When was the last video that you put out?
It was my desk video.
It was only a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's probably 2 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks. So yeah, I still feel like I usually, at the time I post a video, I usually have something else in the editing stage, so I'm not too far away from the next one.
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't have one shot of the next one, so I feel like I need to do something.
Starting afresh.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll do me, I suppose.
All right. So obviously, I started the week off in Queensland with everyone else. But then, other than that, there's been tiling going on. Yesterday, I did a bit of not an all-nighter, but it felt like it at one point. So I've gone all the way up through the. Now, what did we call these again, Joey? The wingbacks.
The wingbacks.
Yeah. So I've gone all the way up there. I tried using the angle grinder to make some of the holes with what that method you were saying that your dad used. There's going to be bigger escutcheons to cover those.
Not ideal.
Yeah, went back to the one of those. I say cheap. It's $50 diamond drill bits, and that was perfect. Gave it a nice clean look. So yeah, I'll use that from now on. But yeah, anyway, got most of the way up the wall with all the taps. All I've got left now to do is a 1.8 by 1.2 empty panel. So that's perfect. I mean, that's just going to go up. Right. Yep. I should be able to do that in a day. Got the second window in today. Got the trim done on the other window yesterday. I've just been tidying up a lot of the trim because when I've been pulling off the panels, some of the trim has been broken so that's all been fixed up. As I say, most of the tiling is done. So all I've got to do is the trim for the one window, finish off the tiling, and then I can finally get the plumber back in to do all the connections, and then then I can do the grouting and the silicon.
Have you had to stuff around with the outside cladding much to get to change your windows, or is it kind of same size in and out?
Yeah, no. The trim on the outside is so minimal, and you can see it's all just been slapped together over time. So I've put the window into the void, and that's pretty much it. The outside trim didn't actually cover the previous windows. It just it's I don't want to say it's an ugly job, because it was just it was done very utilitarian. There was nothing wrong with it. But yeah, now that I've got the windows in, I'm going to try and just dress it up a little bit more on the outside. But yeah, no, literally just you take the louvers out, you take the glass out, you unscrew the two things, and that's it. There's your whole, in goes new window. The first window I did took maybe about 4 hours worth of work because I was measuring this and this. The second window, maybe 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half tops. They go in so quickly because I've done all the windows in here now. I can do these pretty quick, which is good.
Cool.
So that was the renovation.
Yeah. What about your latest little?
Yeah. So literally the day after I got back from Queensland, in the morning there was a T-box woodworking class with our local big studio here. It's called Studio Doubled. It's probably one of the more recognized ones. It's certainly the biggest one that I know. And they are trying to engage a little bit more with the community. So they put on these classes, and you go in there on a very basic level, which I didn't realize at the time. And you within one morning, you put together a T-box and you walk away with it, which is great. So
and that explains something. Okay, right.
Yeah, which I didn't know at the time. So, I mean, I knew it was only a morning class, and I didn't know how I thought that I could be doing more. But I arrived there, and all the pieces were there milled, and all the rebates were cut, everything.
It's just a glue up.
It was just a glue up.
So, do you mind if I ask how much it costs to do that?
Yep. So it's $150 from 9:30 till about 1:30, and
that seems about right.
Everything was provided.
Yep.
And I saw they were selling those boxes in their front rooms for $170.
Right.
So you're kind of walking out with something that you could on sell, not much profit, but I guess you could argue that's the value.
Interesting. So what I noticed in the video, which I thought was interesting, obviously they had pre-made, but the splines, maybe I missed it, but did they use like a router table with a sled? Is that what they used? A dovetail router bit to cut the spline holes in the corner?
So
and then they had made up, pre-made presumably, some like dovetailed, some long extrusion dovetailed pieces.
correct, yeah.
Right. Because I was like, that's a good fit for like a morning's work.
Yeah, no, it was all perfect. The base fitted into the rebate perfectly. The only thing that we had to do was, with the shooting board, bring the lid down to size.
Yeah, right.
Everything else basically was done. We just had to cut some of the splines, and that was it. Even at the point where we'd put the box together, and we had to cut the holes into the corners to accept the splines. At that point, we had to give it over to the teacher, and he went and did it. We weren't allowed to do it, just from a health and safety perspective, which, again, totally cool.
Yeah.
But for someone who's been doing this for a few years,
You're like,
yeah,
step above. But I like the idea of the dovetailed splines, just from the fact that they can walk away and the box isn't going to fall apart. Like you can take the clamps or whatever off. As soon as that's in, it's locked together. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, because we had to glue dry and everything all within the morning.
Yeah.
So it was really well done. And I'll tell you what, if you haven't done woodworking, that class would blow your mind. It would be amazing, because you walk away with something so cool.
But I get people ask for classes all the time, and a lot of the times people are like, I just want to do a morning. And so my next question is, okay, do you want to walk away with something, or do you want to walk away with some knowledge? And 9 times out of 10, people want to walk away with something for the money.
Yeah.
It's really hard, because people don't care about spending money on education at university, but they seem to care about doing it with me. So I say, oh yeah, okay, we could whip together one of my chairs, but you won't finish it. You'll still have to do the upholstery and stuff. Oh no, don't want to do it. So I'm like, all right. Fine.
So they run courses at this place where you can walk in and say, this is what I want to build, and then he'll walk you through it over a number of. But the idea with this was, as you say, to give people the opportunity to have something at the end. I think it's a great idea.
It looked cool. I like the little carving. I thought that looked really awesome.
Yeah. So, a lot of people have said to me on Instagram, like, this, I mean, that was quite simple. You've done a lot more, involved stuff.
Yeah.
But I did so many things that I've never done before. Never carved, never used a shooting board, never actually put in. I've never done dovetail splines before.
Yeah, I've never seen them, to be honest. I mean, it makes sense, but.
Oh, right. I thought it was a fairly common thing to do.
Well, I just don't recall ever actually seeing one. I know it's a thing now, but I just never seen one. I always thought it'd be such a bugger to make that long piece of dovetailed extrusion, that it's, unless you're batching hundreds out like they are, it's kind of the waste of time setting up the machinery for 4 little pieces.
Yeah, so I'm not even sure how they cut it. Like, we walked in and everything was just there.
I imagine it's probably done on the table saw, actually. Yeah, that would make
rippings. That would make sense, but geez, you'd have to play around with it for a bit to get it.
Yeah,
because that was it. They were a good fit.
But,
yeah. Shooting boards.
Cool, huh?
Blowing my mind. Like, that's the future. That's where it is.
That's the future, says the man 500 years ago.
I can't believe how good you can get ingrain to look.
Yeah.
Oh, and obviously so I was using a big jack plane, which made it easy to push through. Sharp as all hell. Yeah. Obviously been maintained, but just beautiful.
Yeah, I have a shooting board. I just don't use it. Mainly because I find I do most of my fine end cutting on the drop saw, because I'm just used to it.
and what is that good enough?
Well, it depends what you're doing. If you're down to like shaving microns, like with a shooting board, that's when a shooting board is needed. But 9 times out of 10, with a stop block or with the stop block on the table saw, you can get stuff right exactly as long as you want them to be.
Oh no! So where I'm saying I was so impressed was not so much being able to fine tune it, but just the density of the fibers after putting the plane over it.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
It's just so tight.
slice is way better than a sand on the end grain.
I've always, on the smaller things, I've used the orbital, and on the bigger things, I've just got my belt sander out, and it's just never really very good. But this was,
so glossy,
after the shellac, it just looks like long grain.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Amazing. Shellac, never used shellac before in my life.
Yeah, that's right. Looks good.
So cool.
Was that the little pad? Was it a pumice pad or just like a cloth pad? Did they show you about that? Yeah,
so it's a cotton wool, like some junky old cotton wool, and then a t-shirt over it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So they went into detail about the where it comes from and all of that.
Yeah,
so just so much education. And the best thing about this trip, and to me this is worth $150. I've always found with my glue ups, many, many months later, there's always a slight ridge on the glue.
Yep.
I've never been able to work that out, because that's one of those things that is so specific that you can't find that information online. And talking to Joel, the owner, he said the problem is Aqua here, which is white PVA, doesn't have those hardening resins, which is why it's always a little bit rubbery and it always just slightly moves. You can't sand that properly flat. Yeah, and I've always assumed what it is the timber moving as it will, and it just kind of squishes that little bit of glue that's at the surface, just proud by like the tiniest amount, but it's tiny. It's enough that you can feel it with your fingertip. Drives you mad. It's annoying. And I've never been able to get rid of it. And he reckons if you go to something like we were using Tight Bond, if you go to something with the resins, it's just hard enough to resist, right? And it will stay flat. So, well, that's interesting. I might do a test, because I know we've talked about wood glue and what there's a reason to go with the yellow glue. So if you are in the Townsville area and you want to do a class, Studio Doubled, you'll know where that is. Definitely, I'd recommend it. Was totally worth the money. Cool. All right. Anything else? No. That's for you. I don't know. Yeah. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. Oh, no, I've forgotten it now. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll move on. Cool. So this weekend we were in, I'm going to say Maleny one more time, because I got bombarded by everyone telling me how that's not the way to say it. It's Maleny. So from now on, I'll say Maleny. In my video, in the footage that I filmed, I was saying Maleny. So I apologize to everyone. It's going to say Maleny in the video. So we did a talk on Saturday morning, or around midday, at the Maleny Wood Expo. And it was, I would call that event a success. Yeah. It's interesting, a different crowd than we would definitely expect, but that's what we actually, when we talked about it, that's what we wanted, was a different crowd. There's no point us talking to people who know all about it and what that was essentially for everyone else. We did a talk about woodworking and social media, and how essentially most woodworkers are solo, kind of tucked away in their workshops, and the easiest way to have a little communication these days is just to get online in one way, one form or the other, even if it's just watching. And it was interesting. It was interesting to hear specifically from that one vendor that Robin, you talked to about social media, and he just kind of swept his hand over his head and was like, "Oh, it's over my head." Yeah. But do you remember what he was selling? Because it was really interesting. I've got some footage of it. It was these wooden trucks. Yeah, but so he was selling essentially really nicely made kids' toys, trucks and graders and things like that from scraps of wood. He was actually selling the plans to make all those things. He had stacks of physical plans ready I didn't see that. With full scale drawings and all sorts of things. And he's the one saying, social media's over my head. All he needed to do was get online and cut his production cost in half, because he doesn't need to make physical plans, and sell PDFs, and he'd be away laughing, because those toys were awesome looking. And it's funny that he just didn't want a bar of it. Well, it's like that other guy that was in the crowd who was shaking his head the whole time saying, "Oh, why would you want to put your work up on You know, why would you want to film your work?
Why would you want to make a video? Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously that's his thing. I'm not saying you can't be like that, but we got to the show thinking we are preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
There were so many people who just didn't get it. They didn't even know it existed. And so it was really nice to be up on stage, watching out in the crowd, seeing a couple faces with this, I didn't know there was a thing kind of look on their face. So it was really good. It was, I think for the most part, it was, even for the people that didn't receive it well, there was a fair amount of engagement, which was the most important thing.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, I won't say we got swamped after the show, but we certainly got some people come up and
rolling
really interested in the conversation. So unfortunately, though, where we did the talk was in this kind of marquee tent type thing, which was red. So any footage of that talk, I mean, it looks like the place is on fire. It's like, it was so bright, and I could barely read my notes on the white paper. And it was just like a dance party in there.
Yeah, so they'd also had music going on, and there were these group of kids, and you know, they were doing what kids do, and we accept that, but they were sort of jumping around in front of us as if there was music going on, and I could just feel the crowd just getting slightly more and more tense as we went through. But I mean, other than that, it was smooth sailing, went really well. I just want to say hello to Richard in the chat. Richard came and chatted to us afterwards. He's thinking about starting up a YouTube channel. That was the exact conversation that we wanted to have with someone afterwards. So thanks for saying hi, Richard. Do appreciate that.
Other than the talk, what did you think about the rest of the show?
It was good. This was my first wood show, Wood Expo. So what I didn't realize was how much wood there was going to be on sale. I'm so gutted that we had to fly there, because I would have just been loading up the trunk because it was so cheap.
Yeah, crazy cheap timber. Like, I mean, and for me, just about everything was new. I mean, I guess I probably know of a lot of those timbers, but I've never really seen them because it's just not something I can get. But yes, crazy cheap slabs of wood, like massive pieces of wood, and
big ones as well. Yeah. I've never seen a slab that rain tree that we saw.
Yeah, crazy,
just these like apartment block size.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking we're looking probably 3.5 meters by 1.2 meters, and some really nice crotch pieces as well. I don't know, Robin, if you know much about the burls over there, but getting an actual burl here is just about impossible. I mean, I don't think I've ever actually seen one. But over there's literally a pile of burls on the ground, like waist high, and you just buy them by the kilo. And I was just shocked at how readily available they were.
Yeah, I've never seen those in the flesh before. Certainly not in that capacity as well. But something we did, and we talked about this a bit while we were there weren't very many tools. So we saw there was a Stool, what do you call it? Demonstration going on. Stool man was there. What else did we see? There was
a little tent with some secondhand stuff, some oldie tools. But I had a quick look, and they were all a bit.
Yeah, so it was very wood focused. Like, there was one area where you went inside, and there was just a catalog of all the exotic woods you can think of. I got to see Purple Heart for the first time. Never seen it, which was again super cool. But yeah, there was no.
Chris Vesper was there.
Yeah, that's right.
Tools. And so that was good. I had a quick chat, but he was very busy doing sales, so that's perfectly good. And so, I mean, really, otherwise, there's lots of sawmills for sale, chainsaw mills and swing saws. But see, that was at one end, and at the other end of the show, they had like people actually trying to sell furniture. There's a few furniture makers there, and I thought that was kind of a different market. Like that seems like a different crowd, but maybe not. I'm not sure if it works for them, but.
Yeah, you're selling something to people who know how to build that. Yeah, that's interesting.
And everyone is critiquing it. I would never put my work out somewhere like that, I don't think.
One thing that we did see that was very cool was this. I think it was an Australian lady with a glove with sandpaper on it. So you buy this glove and you get this removable sandpaper.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
So you can hand sand everything just with these gloves. Replace the sandpaper. I think, what was it, 80 up to 2,000?
Up to 2,000 grit. I thought it was genius. I'm glad you reminded me, because now I need to email her about them.
Yeah, super cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, it makes so much sense. And I don't actually know how much the sandpaper costs, but did she say?
No, I don't think she did.
I imagine it's slightly more expensive than regular sandpaper somehow, but just such an awesome idea, especially for curvy things, turned objects. I mean, it would be perfect on the lathe for polishing and stuff. Just such an awesome idea. So,
yeah. Just going to quickly answer Dan's question there. What were you guys thinking when you were going into it before you got there? Given there was so much you didn't expect, did you have any expectations? No, as I say, I've never been to a wood show before, so I had no idea what it was going to be about. Joey, have you done them before?
I've been into some wood shows, and there was a question here as well. Are there any wood shows in New Zealand? Not like that, and usually they're part of some other kind of event, because over here they probably wouldn't have the legs to warrant renting places and all the stuff that goes into these kind of shows. I expected half of the amount of wood and way more tooling, and I expected to see a lot more than just pieces of wood, which was, I thought, kind of interesting. Yeah. Although I think I mentioned to you, Robin, I was surprised there was a lot of females there. I mean, there was probably 50-50.
And there was, that and families as well. Yeah. Just families coming along to hang out.
Which was cool. I think that was cool, that it's something that families feel like they can come along to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, before moving off, I just want to say a very big thank you again to Steve McLeish for having us. We really enjoyed our time there. And who knows, maybe we'll do it again next year. We'll see how that goes.
So that was on a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
So Sunday, we had a bit more fun.
Yeah, so a lot of you guys will probably know Neil from Pask Makes. He lives not too far from there, so we lined up a meetup with him, went around to his workshop, which was I find it so cool to watch the videos, create this perception of what the place looks like, go there and it's just smashed, because it's never what you think it's going to be. So we got to hang out in his workshop, which was really cool. Just showed us some of his stuff. It was really interesting.
I was thinking about it afterwards. Like, if you guys ever come to my workshop, I would like you all to do the same thing. But we essentially just raided his shelves and cupboards, and we're like, oh, what's this? What does this bit do? Oh, what's this thing here? And just pulling stuff off shelves and like completely messing up his workshop. But I think that was awesome.
Yeah, and showed us his 100,000 subscriber plaque.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube plaque, which I've never seen one of those, so that was quite cool.
I thought that would be bigger. I thought they were much bigger than that, but anyway.
Yeah, okay. And it was interesting what he said about the craftsmanship of it, how well it's made.
Yeah.
As woodworkers, we were scrutinizing it, going, those mitered corners look pretty good. So it's oh man, yours is going to be on the way soon, hopefully, Joe.
Well, hopefully. I haven't heard any news.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they don't know where to send it to. So,
So while we were hanging out with Neil, we started talking about some future events, which I'm not going to go into too much detail now. But let's just say this time next year, we could have a pretty cool event going on.
Some cool things might happen.
Yeah. So that's
we need to work out some details.
And it's nice. It's always nice to come away from these events and not just have it like that was the event and then you leave and then that's it. There's, the follow-up was there, which is nice. There's also another expo called Wood Dust in October this year. Nothing's been confirmed, but then we may have a presence there. that will be probably the next thing on our calendars. Might not be all of us, but the Shop Stool podcast will be represented there. So yeah, there were a couple of good meetups and connections made, and I feel like that was maybe 90% of the purpose of this trip. Do the talk and just meet people.
Yeah, I think so. I think that actually having that, essentially what turned into a big meeting with us three and Neil from Past Makes. I think that whole, we ended up for probably an hour just standing around kind of brainstorming, and all our phones came out and we're searching information, and suddenly we come away with this pretty cool idea. So I think that was probably worth the trip in itself for me. So
yeah, because that's what the idea with this podcast was always about. And it's nice that what we started maybe 6 months ago, 6 months later, we've started really like building those connections.
Yeah,
super cool. And also it was super cool to finally actually shake Joey and Jordan's hand.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was pretty, yeah. I sort of again, I had this perception of Joey and Jordan, and I just assumed Joey was going to be a lot taller. Now, don't worry, I'm a midget, so I can I can get that wrong. But yeah, I was expecting Joey to be a lot taller, and that was just the perception that I had in my mind from seeing you in your workshop.
Well, that's good that I look tall.
Cool. All right. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else worth mentioning. I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that's it for the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the wood show. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
There was a question before. We could do that, or we could do other things.
Oh, let's do the question.
It was just on. I think I mentioned painting something or other before, and sorry, I forget. I've lost the question. Matching paint for clients was essentially the question. Is it difficult? Such and such. Yes, it's a nightmare. The biggest problem is that. So I mainly use resin paint because it's awesome. I like it. The problem is, and this is, as far as I know, is pretty much across the board, paint companies change their paint formulas like yearly to like keep up with the trends, which, okay, maybe makes sense if you're in the business of making paint and you want to be trendy. But that means from year to year, the same color paint with the same name does not match. And it's very subtle.
Yeah.
But over, say, 10 years, that very subtle change becomes not so subtle. Not to mention general fading versus brand new paint versus sheen level. You could have exactly the same paint color kind of 3 years apart look like two completely different colors if you've got matte versus gloss versus new versus sun exposure. I think test samples are a must for really expensive stuff, or if people are really wanting something to match. If they specifically say something has got to look exactly the same, the only way I know to do that is to take a scraping of the existing paint and then have it matched by laser by the paint company.
Is that very accurate? My experience with that is they get close, and then whatever is the closest color bond match to that is generally what it is.
Well, the ones I've done, they make a custom. The computer spits out a custom paint formula for that color. I don't know. I can't tell you how accurate it is. And the times I've used it, it's worked good.
Right.
But there's all sorts of circumstances where, like, if it's a really sunny spot, you're probably going to see a change in paint just because the sun highlights everything. If it's fairly shady, you don't need to worry too much. So, yeah, it's not. So generally, I just like to make units a different color from any other part of the house. It is what it is. So
yeah, that was something that when I lived next door to that builder in my old place, he always said to me with flooring, don't try and match, for example, if you've got old pine flooring, don't try and put down new pine flooring and try and make a match. Just go walnut.
Yeah, just something else.
Something else. They're different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get over it. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, that's my answer for that.
Yeah. When I painted outside my wall, I took a board with a piece of weatherboard with the paint on, took it to Bunnings, and their computer was a nautical mile out. Luckily, the guy there looked and he recognized. So kudos to this guy. Like, people always bag on about the Bunnings employees. This guy looked at it and went, that is, I think it was slate, no, not, or shale gray. That is shale gray. Got it turned out and it was bang on. So that guy knows his paint. But yeah, the computer was, I've lost all faith in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be tricky.
Another question there was from Dan. So is there a collated list of wood shows on the web somewhere? How do you catch wind of them? Not to my knowledge. It's just been from word of mouth. I've done a bit of searching online to try and find, what's out there. Obviously, there's a lot of the smaller ones which aren't online, but we're really looking at the bigger, more exposed shows. So for example, we were talking about wood dust earlier. One of the guys, I'm not sure if Dan's in the chat tonight, but he mentioned it to me. So yeah, I guess it's one of those things where it's just going to be, you find it, you let people know, and that's how you go from there. All right, cool. So that's about that then. Should we?
So are we doing what we're watching maybe?
Yeah. Let's do that next. You go first,
Okay.
Joe.
Right. So I've talked about this guy before, Craig Thibodeau, CT Fine Furniture on Instagram. He has a very small YouTube channel, and he mainly uses it for his kind of like a showcase for finished pieces. And so over about the last 6 months or so, he's been working on a puzzle cabinet, and it is, I'm gonna screw this name up, but it's my best pronunciation. A Röntgen inspired piece. So the Röntgens were a family in, I think, 1780, something like that. Yeah, that makes sense. About that time, crazy. Like you gotta search for Röntgen, and it's spelt Roengent, I believe. Yeah.
There were way too many consonants in that.
Yeah. So he just crazy elaborate secret boxes and counterweighted things and self-opening drawers and just outrageous, think of like the Goonies times 1,000. It's so cool. So this is a modern version of this, and so he's just posted this video, and it's just like a how it works. It's just a showcase of the craziness, and yeah, awesome work, like superb, perfect. I'm gonna have to say it's perfect. Like it is beautiful.
Yeah, I only watched a bit of the video, and it's got that look about it, like I'm not here to prove anything.
No,
I know that this is perfection. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it is proving something, but it doesn't need to say it.
Yeah. No, that was pretty. Yeah, I haven't watched all of it, but the bit that I did watch was pretty mind blowing. Makes me want to pack it all in and look into something else.
Just to be clear as well, I just found this out on his Instagram. He has been collaborating with a puzzle master as well. So the whole lot is not entirely his idea, the mechanisms, I believe. He has certainly made it, but the actual design of some of the mechanisms are not. Yeah, so there's a collab there because it's the original guy, Röntgen, had a watchmaker as his kind of partner, so he would do the woodworking part, and then all the mechanical locks and counterweights were made by a watchmaker. So it's not just one trade making these crazy things. It is Craig Thibodeau, and if you'll find him at CT Fine Furniture on Instagram.
Richard, if you look in this video in the comments below, the link should be there, so you can jump onto it there. So my choice this week is from KRT Wood, I think it is. He's done a KRT Wood. He's done a concrete rope.
Yeah.
So the idea behind it was,
wasn't it chain? Yeah.
Sorry, it is chain. But
did he call it rope? Is that what he did?
Well, there's a channel called Practical Engineering. There's this, the guy's name is Grady, and he's quite a big channel. He does these videos where it's fairly high level, but it's on very small topics in engineering. So in one of his latest videos, he's been testing concrete strengths with and without rebar, which is quite interesting, with one of my videos being a concrete countertop. It was quite an interesting video. And yeah, he explained it pretty well. In that video, he's gone on to say, concrete's great, but because it's all compressive strength, you would never make a concrete rope.
Right.
So KRT Wood, I'm not sure of the guy's name. He said, well, let me try and make a concrete rope. And he's made a chain. It's just a 3-link chain.
Yeah.
The links they're pretty big.
Pretty big, yeah.
And what he did is he actually, when he was putting it together, well, when he showed it in the beginning, I thought, how's he joined those links? Like, has he made them and then just filled in the section where the chains have crossed? But no, they're solid poured.
Yeah.
The way he did it was so clever.
Very cool.
And yeah, just a simple idea, and that'll be a paperweight. But yeah,
the best thing about that video was at the start, he said, this is completely useless.
Yeah.
But I'm just having fun. I thought that was so cool.
To take it from that idea that this can't be done to doing it, wins my vote for sure. So yeah, KRT Wood, what's the name of I think it's, concrete rope.
Concrete rope, yeah.
Links will be in the description down below. All right, everyone. Well, that's about the show. I just want to do a quick shout out to everyone who met up with us, which we didn't talk about, Joe, at the meetup down in Brisbane on Saturday night. So myself, Jordan, and Joey, we went down to Brisbane. We met up with a handful of people who are all fans of our channels and the podcast, and we just went and had a beer. And it was so cool to meet people. You get these comments from people all the time, but to actually go and shake the hand and have a beer with them was super cool. And everyone was just the coolest people.
Yeah, super chill. It was really cool.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone who came down to that. We really did appreciate it. We will be doing more of those. All the people that came to that were from Brisbane, local area. And I think the way this is going to work is we're going to have to make sure that we go to different areas because it's hard for people to travel. But we will be doing that more in the future as much as we can.
Yes, there may be other traveling involved.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining in. Next week we will have another topic, a normal topic, and hopefully, George, you're going to be feeling better, so you'll be able to join us as well. Joey, anything else from you that you want to end off on?
Fingers crossed. I'll have a video in the next 2 weeks.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That'll be good. Cool. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again same time next week, 7 o'clock Thursday.
All right. Sweet. See ya.